being recorded here, folks. So we have a quorum. We may have another. I'm going to go ahead and start the meeting. Everyone signed the waiver of notice. We have minutes that were mailed to us for the April 21st meeting. Is there a motion to accept these minutes?
So moved.
Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion on the minutes? If not, all those in favor of approving the minutes as presented indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any noes? Minutes are approved. Then our first order of business, we have a preliminary approval of Urban Flats is here with a preliminary approval of not to exceed $22 million in multifamily housing bonds. And who is here? Okay.
Hello. My name is Kelsey Osman. I'm with Urban Housing Solutions. We're a nonprofit.
I'm sorry, what's the name again?
Urban Housing Solutions.
No, your name.
Oh, Kelsey Osman.
Kelsey.
So this project might sound familiar. We were here in January 2021 for the same project. It's shifted a little bit, but it was mostly because of the capacity constraints on the program last year. So back again, ready to apply. So it's 138 units now, up from 131. It's a redevelopment of a property that we've owned since 1991 on Murfreesboro Pike, so about 2 miles south of downtown, right by Tribeca, if you're familiar with that area. So this is the first phase of redevelopment of that property, so it'll unlock the redevelopment potential of the whole site. We're planning for a zero displacement for our current residents. So we have an off-site relocation under construction right now that will accommodate 70 of those residents. We'll do some internal relocation on site, and then the remainder will go into that new building. So we're on track to start construction for that next year and be complete by the end of 2024. So it'll be an income average project because some of the residents who are on site will be under a RAD conversion, the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program, so they'll convert their existing assistance to a project-based rental assistance. So serving folks who are formerly homeless, so we'll continue to serve that population through a partnership with the COC.
You're tearing down the existing building, correct?
Correct. It was built in the 60s as a motel, converted to permanent housing in the 90s, and so it's lived a long life, but is not serving its highest and best use for the residents or the community. So we'll do a full redevelopment of the whole site.
And you expect that you have some of the similar residents that are essentially homeless or have been homeless? Is that, I mean?
Correct. So in the first phase, we'll maintain 40 of the current their SRO units, so they're single room occupancy, very small converted motel rooms. So those residents will be upgrading to a true one bedroom, and the assistants will convert from that HAP contract to a PBRA. So the residents will see a market improvement with no increase in their out-of-pocket expense. And then the additional 98 units in that first building will be the income average up to 80%.
How many residents do you have now? Like, does this increase in the amount of people you can serve with that?
Not in this first phase, but it does unlock the next 2/3 of the site. So the goal is ultimately to about triple the density on site, and again be able to serve a wider range of incomes there.
So in the packet, when it talked about 138 apartments, that's all the phases.
Just the first phase.
That's just the first phase.
We're just here for the first phase.
I love doing mathematics, and so 22 million divided by 138, 150,000 each, 160. That just seems like nobody can build anything for that. So, is there other funding coming into this to make it go, or?
Yeah, so we'll pair the tax credits with a CITC loan, the Community Investment Tax Credit Program. So it's a low interest loan. We're partnering with Pinnacle Bank, who's been a great partner for us. It does also have a grant from the Barnes Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which is our local grant organization, for $2 million. And then we'll be putting in some of our own equity as well.
Move approval. Okay, when we're there. We're not there, but.
And you currently own the property, right?
Correct.
So that's
Okay, now it's super clear. Okay, sorry to be dumb.
And not having to purchase the property. That's a big chunk usually.
And we went from 131 to 138. How did we add 7 units?
So the site has a significant grade change, and so we had always planned to do a level of structured parking and amenities. We were essentially able to add, it's not really a mezzanine level, but it's an extra kind of half level of additional units. So we were able to fit 8 more units in that sort of half level.
Thank you.
Same number of parking, or did you have to increase parking, or how did that work?
So we're essentially doing kind of a shared parking arrangement with ourselves. So the new building has new structured parking and some surface parking, and then we're accounting for the entirety of the site, including the existing parking spaces in that. So eventually it'll all redevelop, and so we'll essentially kind of average everything out across the next two buildings as well.
Any thoughts on how many units you might expect in the other phases, the other two phases?
The target is about 250 between two buildings. If we can do it all in one phase, then we certainly will. We're also potentially looking at relocating our own offices there. That's where we started, and we're outgrowing our current space, so we'd be looking to add that in as well, but not in this first phase.
Is that vacant land that phase 2 or 3 would go on?
So it's more of the motel property, so it's a super low density right now. There's a lot of pavement. So once we get everybody into the new buildings, then we'll be able to demolish the rest and redevelop that as well.
Okay, so you plan to submit this to THCA then?
Correct.
You haven't, did you go before them before or not? Have you been to THCA?
We had not actually submitted it in the 2021 round, but we have a lot of the materials still ready, so we're working on finalizing that application right now.
So did we ever consider, did we consider this, did we give preliminary approval before?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, yeah, so we're back, kind of, we've seen this before, we're back, gotta be renewed, and so we need a public hearing on this, I believe, right? Okay.
Yes.
So at this time, I will ask, is there anybody here from the public wishing to speak for or against this proposal? I'm not seeing anyone desiring to speak, so we'll close the public hearing. We have a resolution before us presented, or in our packets, I guess. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt.
Move for adoption. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any further questions? If not, all those in favor of the resolution for Urban Flats indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Resolution is adopted. Yes. Okay, our next project, you ready to go?
I'm here.
Okay. Are you with WCO Clarksville?
I am.
Okay. That is our next project, and you're here for final approval, so.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so Grace Evans with Elmington Capital, as well as Julie from my team, and Pete Azella, who Baker Donaldson is our bond counsel. I came before the board in December for preliminary approval and received that approval. Since then, we've gotten our award from THCA for credits and bonds. We have a Barnes Fund award, and we have all of our construction, perm, and equity lined up and ready to close. So just here for the final approval. If you remember, this is a 250-unit development, kind of a little bit northwest of kind of the Cumberland River, like Buena Vista neighborhood. So 250 units, it's a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. We're doing income averaging, so those AMIs range from 50 to 80%. At this point, we've got all of our final plans, drawings, costs, all of that's in. We are ready to close at the end of July. May slipped like August 1st, and then we start construction right away. So really just waiting on this for final approval.
Questions from you? Again, we have a resolution before us, presented to us. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor of the resolution indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Resolution is adopted. And then we have Old Stone Bridge Crossing LP.
Hey,
Hello.
good to see you all again. Evan Holiday Ventures. So I think maybe our third time being here, but this will be for our final approval. This is up in Goodlettsville, right there on Main Street. 20.75 acres, 311 units, all affordable. It also has a mix of commercial retail on the first floor of the buildings facing the main street. So it'll be truly a mixed-use development. It will be built above and beyond Energy Star. We'll have solar. We'll have all the very best amenities throughout our community. The reason for us coming today is for the final approval and then also a slight increase in the bonds to allow for an increase that we experienced in construction pricing. The last time we had pricing was in November of '21, and we came to you all in December of '21. And since then, we got our revised final pricing from the GC on May 29th, and unfortunately, it came back even higher than we anticipated. So it's unfortunately the climate we're living in right now. But we are asking for a slight increase in the bonds. But with today's approval, we also have the award from THDA on the tax credits and the bonds. So with today's approval, we would close likely September 1st, so right before Labor Day weekend.
You anticipate costs going up in between now and September 1st?
I sure hope not. No, in all seriousness, I think since the end of May to today, we hammered out every single bit of cost savings we could achieve, and have been able to basically lock in subcontractor pricing. And so as soon as we sign our GC contract, which will be in the next week, we will lock in all of our subcontractor pricing as well.
Okay, we have this, because I guess of the increase, we have to have a public hearing. We had one before, but as you know, when we gave preliminary approval, this is final approval, but because they're making changes, I'll have to ask, is there anyone here wishing to speak for or against this particular project? I'm not seeing anyone indicating a desire to speak, so we'll close the public hearing. Any questions from the board?
I just had a general question about supply chain. What are you all experiencing in terms of the impact on supply chain of completion on time and getting people back into housing?
Yeah, that's a great question. Unfortunately, everything's taking longer than we expected. I think, like this, for example, this project maybe 3 years ago would have taken 20 months. It's now taking us 24 months from start to finish. So it's adding another 4 months that we normally wouldn't have had to anticipate or account for. So that, of course, adds on not just the construction cost, but all the other related costs of construction. But we are hopeful that we'll at least stay steady and not go any further.
Thank you.
And what contributes to those 4 months? Labor or?
Supply chain issues, it's, getting fridges and all your appliances, you have to order 12 months in advance. Your roof shingles, you have to order 8 months in advance. It's basically all of your materials, and then also to mention the amount of demand, especially in Nashville, Davidson County, Metro. Just finding labor and finding contractors that have enough manpower to get on our site specifically. Maybe, 5 years ago they would have had 20 guys, now they're bringing 15 guys, just as a wide-ranging example. But both of those are causing the issue.
You still at 312 units with three levels of construction?
Yeah, 311 units and first floor retail.
First floor retail, okay.
What kind of retail are you anticipating?
Hopefully something that can benefit the residents. We're looking at creating, partnering with some nonprofits here locally to create a co-working space. And part of the space, we have 7,500 square feet of commercial. So designated part of that for co-working would have mentorship, guidance, entrepreneur training for our residents and for the community. And then above and beyond that, hopefully a coffee shop, services that our residents can really benefit from, and gathering places.
What do you know what the nearest grocery store, not Hot Stop or 7-Eleven, but an actual grocery store to this would be?
There is the Kroger, the Goodlettsville Kroger, but it's just on the other side of the highway interchange.
Is it walkable?
No, not from our site.
Is providing a grocery store potential retail?
If we can find a group that's willing to do that, then yes.
Then again, we have a resolution presented to us. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Moved
Second.
and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of the resolution indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Resolution is adopted.
Thank you very much.
And then finally, we have Margaret Robertson, Housing.
Hi, I'm Lon Boer with SDG Housing. We're here for final approval for Margaret Robertson. It's an existing 100-unit family complex, 100% Section 8. We are currently in the permitting process. Drawings are complete. Our general contractor's been selected. We're doing our final negotiations on that contract, and we are hoping to close in mid-August. Get to work.
How old is this property now?
How old? It was built in 1983.
So did it has had Section 8 have contract with it, or?
Yes.
And so what kind of term are you gonna have on that?
Pardon?
What kind of term are you gonna have on that going forward?
We're going to continue it, like for the 15.
15 years?
When did you all come up for preliminary approval?
It's a few months ago.
February?
Was it
Okay.
February?
Thank you. Got it.
So does that mean at the end of 15 years, it can flip to anything?
Theoretically, yes, but they generally don't. You know, it's kind of the acquisition rehabs of those Section 8s. It's a niche market, and it's usually different development groups come in and continue.
That's a max you can get now, is that right, 15 years? Yeah. And then they can ask for another 5 or 10 or whatever. Now, how are you dealing with, what's the vacant occupancy now?
100%.
100%. So how are you gonna deal with
The majority of the work will not require
people moving out?
people moving out, just the ADA conversion units, when we're converting 5% to modern or current ADA standards.
How do you handle the displacement of those residents?
Hotel and per diems.
Okay, again, we have a resolution before us. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution for Margaret Robertson Housing? Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor of the resolution indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Resolution is adopted. Thank you. That essentially completes our agenda of regular housing developments. Do we have any old business that we need to consider? Any new business?
No new business.
Okay, you got your information reports that came with the mailings, so unless anybody else, anything else to bring forth?
The new business was, who do we thank for these parking passes?
Not me. I don't know.
Right. I was like, what?
You?
No, I've been thinking about it, but I didn't say I didn't do anything.
We've talked about that for years. I don't know
Yeah.
whether Cindy or somebody, they just,
I don't know that we had anything to do with
showed
that.
up.
They showed up. That was meant to Cindy since you couldn't be here.
maybe whoever was here from Metro last time or something, maybe.
We just did $130 million, and you know, the park passes are fun. It's fun. I agree.
All right, if there's no further business, we'll stand in adjournment then. Thank you all very much for being here.